The Lunaverse, Episode 23, Elements of Insanity, by Emeral Bookwise. Lunaverse by Rainbow Double Dash. Chapter 1, What Friendship Could Be. It was a moonless night in Philadelphia. Outside the city's most prestigious college, all was still and quiet, except for a lone figure that snuck through the shadows. The figure approached the campus library, a repository of knowledge second only to the Royal Archives at Canterlot, a farless guard. Surely, the soliciting would be located among the tome and scrolls within its walls. Keeping to the shadows, the figure crept along the building's perimeter. On finding a window low enough to see through, the shadow snaked through to stood tall to peer inside. The room beyond appeared empty. Not a guard or late light student in sight. A figure stepped back, took a deep breath, and chanted a familiar spell. A unicorn's horn began to glow a soft magenta. Then, pop! In a flash of light, the figure vanished. 1 second, pop! The intruder reappeared inside the building. The figure glanced about attentively, to concern the room was devoid of any other presence. After assuring herself that she was alone, the trespasser decided to take a chance. Now that she was safe from the prying eyes of any passing strangers in the night, she decided to conjure a light to guide her path, and so illuminated her horn. It glowed ever so dimly from beneath the hood of her burlap cloak, but it was enough to cast herself in the area about her in a soft magenta light. She released the orb of light, allowing it to float beside her as she passed by rows upon rows of shelves, each full of countless written materials of every conceivable variety. This wasn't her first time sneaking into a library. Even so, Twilight Sparkle wasn't a bad pony, just a curious one. She never used her abilities to do anything that would actually hurt some pony, not intentionally. All she ever learned was knowledge, and in that pursuit, what was the harm in breaking a few rules? Sure, many of the tomes she had secretly read were forgiven, full of highly illegal magic, but it wasn't like she had ever intended to use those spells to any malicious end. However, it wasn't forbidden secrets that brought Twilight to these archives tonight. No, she came instead to seek a solution to the most dreaded misfortune that had befallen her. It had been a little over a week now, but the memory still haunted her. Ponyville, the Ursa, and her. Trixie Moon, personal student to Princess Luna Equestrius, savior of Equestria, the supposed living embodiment of magic itself, and the most obnoxious and deceitful pony Twilight Sparkle had ever the displeasure of meeting. Hey! Twilight still couldn't remember how overjoyed she had been to go to Ponyville, to meet the legend made flesh. All the things she had hoped to learn for some pony that must have been the most magical unicorn since Starswirl the Bearded. But what she found instead had been disappointing, to say the least. At first, she thought Twilight and Trixie a mere fraud. Then it became clear to her. Trixie had only been putting up a front to keep away less qualified appearances. Or so Twilight thought. Thinking it back, marching into town with an Ursa minor in an attempt to prove her own worth hadn't been her most well-thought-out plan. Sorry, it was impressive, but even if nothing had gone wrong, she had an awful lot of explaining to do. However, she learned something very valuable from the incident. Trixie Moon really was a fraud. After all, Twilight was the one who had to do all the real work in saving the town. Even she sort of had been responsible for causing the danger in the first place. After all, how many unicorns could have single-handedly teleported to giant starbase? All that Hack had done was perform a few cheap parlor tricks to distract it. Worse still, though, was when Twilight had to figure out the whole truth. It had taken a few days, but once she puzzled it out, the answer was beyond clear. Miss Lulumoon was jealous, and not just that, but also afraid. She had seen Twilight's potential. It was obvious who the superior unicorn was. So that Jezebel had set her up. Sabotaged Twilight's entire life, just so Luna could keep thinking her precious student was the best. Twilight Sparkle was the true, one and only best, and tonight she would take her first steps in proving it. Twilight gathered a dozen books in her magic, flipping pages and turning from one to the next, and then to another as she referenced and cross-referenced. It was a familiar routine, one that brought her more comfort than she had since the start of her forced exile. As she proceeded about her oldest rituals, she found an old melody filling her head, Words came shortly thereafter. I'll cook up a solution, I've got some knowledge to accrue. That will let her learn her lesson, I won't let her play number two. I'll gather the ingredients to make some harmony. The princess will reward me, that is a certainty. Now it's time to prove my magic, someone true for honesty. There's no distress, so some kindness to claim my destiny. Yes, this plan would work. It was perfect. The very best ever. Twilight skipped over to a filing drawer, carrying out several sets of ledgers. She had a list to make. Twilight glanced down at a nearby desk, where she saw a pile of newspaper clippings, probably left by some careless student. Among them was a picture of Luna at the Grand Gala, greeting various officials and dignitaries. But it wasn't the princess or any of the guests that drew her gaze. No. Her eyes focused squarely on the young azure unicorn standing next to the royal alicorn. She was dressed in an outfit more gaudy than Twilight had last seen her. Most infuriating of all, though, was that lazy grin, as though the unicorn was bored. Anger flared as the mental tune continued. For sure will you feel me, little moon. Your life has just been a cakewalk, but I'll take your silver spoon. Find a joke, get some laughs, and work and toil. Earn the loyal generosity repository. Makes enticing, fate-enticing, pacifying, rectifying. Meanwhile, far away in Canterlot, an armor-clad unicorn stared up at the star-filled sky. He was the captain of the royal guard. But more importantly, he was a big brother. Legend has it that if two ponies looked exactly at the same star, they could hear each other, no matter how great the distance between them. As he picked out her favorite constellation, Shining Armor hoped beyond hope that his sister might be looking up at that same moment. Twilight, if you could hear me, I only want you home. Please don't sink into madness. I can't bear that you're alone. Alas, even if such legends were true, Twilight Sparkle was well beyond such simple reason. My subjects are selected, soon I'll have them in my thrall. I've hit the books, now it's time to look, I'm going to meet them all. Now is the time to prove my magic, Friendship's power I will postpone. No more an outcast found in some alley sin, so I can finally go home. Twilight hesitates, realization slowly sinking into her soul as he repeated. So I can finally go home. She stood in silence, mouthing that last word as a tear rolled down her cheek. As she stared out the window's star-filled sky, she wondered, was it really so simple? Was it true all she wanted? For a brief moment, she felt as though her BBFF had stood before her, eyes pleading full forgiveness. She wanted so desperately to rush forward, to embrace the phantom, but Twilight shook her head. No, it didn't matter how much she wanted. She could, not yet. Not until she cleared her name. Not until she proved her worth. Not until Luna Moon learned the meaning of real magic. Chapter 2. Faithful and Strong. The stallion floated through a dark void. It was vast, cold, and empty. He liked the void. There was no screaming here. Yes, this is where he belonged. Beyond the baleful cries of anguish and suffering. Here he simply could let go. Abandon himself to oblivion. Something bright came into existence in the distance, like a newborn star. His glare stirred and roused the stallion. What? No! There wasn't supposed to be anything here. Just emptiness. A place where he could suffer for his sins in lonely isolation. And also a sound. A voice calling out to him. No! 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 Why couldn't the world just go away? He didn't want to be a part of it anymore. There was too much pain, too much suffering. He failed. The void possessed up, no down. Yet he fell. The sudden feeling of vertigo was just as quickly replaced by a surge of moisture as he crashed into an unseen ocean. The stallion coughed up water as the word exploded back into his existence around him. His eyes burned for the light as his head felt like it wanted to implode. He pressed his host to the side of his aching skull. Whether to massage the pain away, or to aid in crushing the offending body part, he wasn't quite sure. Where was he? As he brought a hoof over his shield as until his dusting eyes from the harsh light, he could make out what looked like an alleyway behind the local tavern. He smacked his lips so he could still taste the lingering remains of salted ale. No doubt the proprietor had thrown him back here after having passed out. But he couldn't figure out why was he soaking wet. His hazy vision couldn't actually make out the sky above, but by the amount of light he could already tell the day was bright and sunny. Ah, good! You're awake! There it was again, the same voice that disturbed him in the void. He could hear it clearly now, as he could hear anything over the ring in his ears. He could see its source, sort of. A vaguely pony-like shape stood over him. A mare, if his ears could be trusted to pitch the current state. Probably a unicorn, too, as he appeared to be levitating what looked like a puppet.
Go away,
He muttered as he clenched his eyes shut, in vain attempt to summon the void. He spent nearly every bit he had left to reach oblivion this last time. What was he going to do now? Actually, I need your help.
Help. Ha! That was a laugh. I'm sorry, you got the wrong pony for that, miss.
His rebuke trailed off into a question as he realized he had no clue who he was talking to. Not that he should really care about such things anymore. All he wanted was to be left alone, to wallow in his own misery. The mare seemed hesitant to reply, but finally, my name is Twilight Sparkle, and I think we could both be of great help to each other, Silver Star. A light brown head plunged into the water. It was cool and refreshing, but still, it muffled all the noise of the world. It reminded Silver Star of the void. He briefly considered just leaving his head submerged beneath the rippling surface, to put a final end to it all. But at the heart of things, he was still the same coward he had always been. The stallion pulled his head from the trough and took in a mighty gasp of air. He shook the water from his coat and dark brown mane, giving his even darker mustache a twitch to shake loose any last remnants. As his mane returned to a somewhat conscious functionality, he returned to contemplate the mare that had dragged him back to life he had been so desperately trying to escape. She had a fairly average build. Her coat was a shade of lavender, and her dark blue mane was neatly trimmed, though a vibrant strip of purple and pink down the middle. He couldn't make out her cutie mark, hidden as it was beneath the light brown burlap cloak. Actually, to call it a cloak was a bit generous. It was more like a hastily cut potato sack that had been tied off with a bit of worn rope. Why would she bother with such a garment in this heat was behind him? But he wasn't the type to pry, even before he gave up caring about the world. He fixed his attention the most so was her eyes. A rich purple, and while he clearly tried to present an air of confidence, he could see a deep sadness beneath it all. He wondered briefly what had caused her such pain, and what he could do to take it all away. No, that was the old Silver Star, the one that actually gave a damn about other ponies. Still, she was kind of cute. Maybe it was just a hangover mugging up his vision, but if he were a younger stallion, he might. He shook his head and mind once again to remind himself how there was nothing left for him to hope for. Least of all some filly who was almost young enough to be his daughter. He straightened his dust-worn blue vest and red bandana over his neck, before picking up his black Stetson and placing it on top of his head. Then he turned to face her proper.
All right there, Miss Sparkle. What exactly is it you want? What makes you think a bloke like me could be able to help?
Well, Silver Star, I just...
Just, Silver Star, please, he interrupted. I ain't a proper sheriff no more. Not without telling to be a sheriff of.
Right. That's actually sort of why I'm here. You see, I...
Look, I'm sorry if you lost any kinfolk out there.
He hesitated, swallowing hard before continuing.
I did my damn best to get every pony I could out safely. I know that must be core consolation. I really understand if you feel like taking a book upside my face. You wouldn't be the first, and you probably won't be the last either.
That said, he just stood there. He didn't flinch or in any way seem ready to steady himself for the assault he had just permitted. He was a bad pony. He deserved to suffer, and his filly deserved to have full at him. That's not why I'm here. I don't think any of my family has even been anywhere near the frontier reaches. Most of them live in Latago, after all, and... This time she shut herself up, but cramming a hoof into her mouth, before glancing about nervously as though she said too much. Silver Star only shrugged. There was something in the young mare's past he didn't want to talk about. Well, he certainly wouldn't pry. He just wished she'd go away and let him do the same favor.
Fine. So if you're not here to take your piece of me, or what possible reason could you have for coming here, dressing up my past?
His voice seemed to be rising with more irritation than he intended, but he was hardly in so much condition to practice proper self-restraint.
You one of them punks that gets off laughing at poor washed up gutter trash. Does that make you feel like a pig shot? Like your own life is so miserable?
The young mayor backed up with an exclamation. I... Silverstar pressed forwards. He hated ponies that got their jollies by kicking others when they were down. Sir, he deserved it, but that was no reason to excuse such behavior. Then he looked into her eyes again. They were darting rapidly from side to side, clearly frightened of what he may do. But there was something more, too. Steve was starting to cry.
Ah, haystacks.
He done it again. He let his temper take charge. And now he made the young lass cry. He felt like even more of a monster than usual. And while he deserved to feel that way, she didn't deserve to suffer for it. He had to give himself a few licks for that little outburst later, though. Right now, he had a mess to clean up. He reached up a hoof to wipe away the moisture that had been forming at the corners of her eyes.
Hush now there, he soothed. It'll be all right. Why don't you just tell this old wash-up has-been what you need help with? I can't make no promises, but it'll make you feel better. The least I can do is listen.
She sniffled, so he brought her down, trying to gaze him at his. I'm in trouble. A lot of trouble, and, well, I need a group of 5 ponies to help me out, and I was hoping you could be one of them. He wondered what kind of trouble she was in that she needed his kind of help with, and why 5 exactly. Briefly recalled that time so many years ago when he had been a group of 7. No, that was the old Silver Star, an arrogant youth who thought such exploits would be magnificent. I'm giving you a point for referencing one of my favorite westerns. Bing! It had been a whole other lifetime ago. A life that had belonged to a naive fool who had eagerly confused the lack of fear for bravery. Even as he tried banishing those memories, Silver Star found himself wishing he had some of those comrades with him more recently. Maybe things wouldn't have turned out differently so badly if... No, better that he bared that burden of atrocity alone. Besides, none of that made a difference now.
It's fine. So you need help? Why me?
He tried to be kind, but he saw her flinch at the bite of his words. Well, she started nervously. I read about how you risked your life and courageously defended the whole town and...
Take courage. I was there. Boys were in trouble. I did what I had to do. Nothing more, nothing less.
Now that nervous head seemed to bleed away as her eyes came alight. But that's exactly what I need. You stood fast when others fled. You risked life and limb to save as many innocents as you could. You showed that single most important quality I need from you. Loyalty.
Loyalty. Now that wasn't a laugh. Well, miss, let me tell you something plain and simple like. 'Twas just a job. I was there because the Apple Trust hired me to keep the peace. So that's what I did. I had a contract, an obligation. I've never seen a pony back out on my word. A promise is a promise. And come, hide sun or winter goes for us. I always keep in mind. And what costs too.
The screams of the ponies he failed to save were bad enough, but it was the screams of the other side that truly haunted his soul. They hadn't been villains, only natives, trying to reclaim the land they felt stolen from them. That hadn't mattered then, though. Silver Star played his part, did what he had to. Now all that was left for him was to carry the pain of that sin, till the day the final end that awaited all ponies blessed him with a more permanent void, was to lose himself. But you still help them, she pleaded. It's what you do. It's your job, your name. It's your special talent. Silver Star looked back at the cutie mark that reflected his owner's name. He long since discarded the badge he used to wear on his vest. He tore the thing away with such fire and fervor that he left a jagged hole in the garment. He liked that hole. It mirrored the one in his heart. The badge he wore on his flank, though, well, that was another matter. It was the one indelible reminder of the pony he used to be. He also thought of taking hot iron to it and burning the offending brand away. But that wouldn't solve the real problem. No, he could live with the physical reminder of his discarded past. The pain it caused him to look upon his own flank really was another torment he deserved. It was that niggling sensation in the back of his skull he couldn't endure. That was the part of him that truly sought to drown away in the oblivion of the void. All the terrible crimes he committed in the name of justice, he could live with those. The screams were horrible to remember, but it was what he deserved. What he couldn't tolerate, what he had to be rid of, was that somewhere deep down inside, he still possessed that same fiery passion to protect other ponies. A passion that still burned every bit as fiercely as the day his destiny was first made manifest. Worst of all, though, following that call still brought him the purest of joys, a joy he no longer deserved. So then, will you help me? Will you promise? There was that niggle that ached to be scratched. Would he help her? Could he really let himself give in to that temptation? Silverstar looked into the mayor's pleading eyes. That held his damnation. He would either go to the surface of the sun itself and look at his blazing queen straight into the edgy soulless eyes, and fill his pitiful mayor's own with even an ounce more sorrow and disappointment. Every fiber of his being ached telling, no, demanding him of what action he must take. And so he made his decision. Luna cursed him for 1,000 years, but it was the only choice he could make. Chapter 3. Tons of Fun. The piercing cry of an alarm clock filled the air. From under the covers of an adjacent bed, a half attached to a gray leg reached out and slammed the offending device. Duh! It's too early for the morning. 5 minutes later, the alarm rang again. It was time to fumble constantly about it until it knocked sideways against the fiendish device, sending it tumbling to the floor below. At the sound of the crash, the occupant of the bed bolted upright. I'm up! I'm up! A moment passed as her mind settled, before the Earth Pony mare stretched and let out a big yawn. She scratched a single huff across the back of her curly, dark green gold mane as she blinked her bright green eyes. Finally, she glanced down to the floor where the alarm clock was almost intact. Mostly. Getting out of bed, she picked it up and placed it back on the top of her worn nightstand. There was a new crack in the glass surface, though. It started to lose count. It had already become almost impossible to read what time the pointers indicated. But it wasn't like it needed to do anything other than blare out this cacophony every morning. That it could still do under the abuse her sleep-addled brain put it through was a true testament. The clock was perseverant survivor, much like its owner. Clover Charms had not led what most would consider a fortunate life. Orphaned at a young age, she spent most of her youth passed from one foster family to the next, with a fair too many stints of being homeless on the streets thrown into the mix. Then there was the matter of her love life. No, she rather not even start down that train of thought. For seeing as if that last train of thought had ever happened, she looked around the chipped paint and peeling wallpaper of her run-down apartment. She wasn't so sure her present circumstances were all that much better than the toes of her past. Still, she made do with the best she could, but with limited education. Her job options weren't as much to speak of. She could even fall back on her special talent to pay the bills. The trio of four-leaf clovers on her flanks didn't really represent any marketable skills. Like her nickname, Lucky, her cutie mark was more ironic than anything else. Ponies that bothered to get to know her always knew how to ask she got that mark if her life sucked so much. Well, she was always answered. Although all two kinds of luck in this world, and I'm not so long as I'm hocking up so much of the bad, there's more of the good to go around for every pony else. Most ponies would then give her an odd look, unable to comprehend how she could actually mean such a thing. But Clover, Lucky, Charms, had learned years ago that the only way to survive the harsh truths of the world was to laugh off her own misfortunes. The way she figured, she had two choices: grin and bear it, or be crushed beneath the weight of her own misery. How could that not be the easiest choice in the world to make? For all that look upon life, also made other ponies tell her she was funny. Too bad that meant more in the touch than the head sort of way than the comical one. For several years now she had been trying, unsuccessfully, to make a career for herself as a comedian. Fortunately, it seemed the type of wit that could get a sarcastic chuckle from an individual really wasn't the kind of stuff that wowed larger audiences. Truth was, most of the ponies preferred to believe that Equestria was an idyllic paradise where nothing could go wrong. Lucky couldn't fault them for wanting to hold on to that belief, no matter how wrong it actually was. Oh well, no sense of dwelling on all that, she thought to herself, as she paced over to the window and threw open the curtains to bask in the morning light of the newborn day. Or at least she would have. Fortunately, the skies are gray and overcast, an all too common sight in Manhattan, or at least this section of it. Another glorious beauty born for my luxurious penthouse, she thought to herself. What more could I possibly ask for in life? It was a silly joke born of an obvious lie. but brought an instant smile to her face. Not a sarcastic one either, but a truly deep and genuine grin that reached all the way to the bottom of her soul and back again. She really did have that matter most. She might not be rich and famous, or even financially secured, and appreciated by those who got to know her personally. But she was alive, and so, as the old saying went, she meant to have hope. Not to hope things might ever get better, but hope that she would wake again tomorrow, the day after, or the next after that as well. She was alive. For as long as that lasted, she would treat every day as a miracle as it was. Of course, if she expected to stay alive, she had to put food on the table. To do that, she had a job to get to. She tried up to her bathroom, more of a closet really, turned this tap to start her morning routine with a brisk, refreshing shower. The water was far too cold, but at least it was clean. As the flow washed away yesterday's grime, she hummed to herself. My name is Clover Charms, I sing under the spray, with a great big smile through every gloomy day. It doesn't matter how I should be sad or blue, 'cause keeping good cheer is what I always do. I always wear a smile, 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 yes I do. It guards my heart from noonshine all the while, yes it does. 'Cause all I ever need's my smile, 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 even if it's all I got. Trying from one market stall to the next, Lucky ponders what she wants to eat, or perhaps more importantly, what her precariously light coin purse can inform. I like some fancy class, but the day-old will have to do. Well, cheese dip and some relish still be just as tasty too. I might have a little money, but I will not pout or frown. I'll tell a joke and give a laugh, then scarf my breakfast right on down. 'Cause life's not a game to win, win, win. No, it's not. Never let them see my fear, don't give in. Just to live life's a joy, win, win, win. When it's done, we're all the same. Clover posters a mail cart down an aisle of office cubicles. The present drabness pervades the entire scene, unhindered by the multi-hued coats of ponies at each desk. It's true this job's drab and dreary, or maybe I should feel sad. But silly as it seems, I can only choose instead to be the god. Some folks might call me soppy and say my life's not worthwhile, but I just laugh them off and give a smile. Later that evening, in a back alley pub with a sign advertising open mic night, a tomato sails through the air, strikes the curtain stage behind Lucky, dodges it with practice experience. I shouldn't be so happy when all they do is cheer, and yet I smile, it's no denial, life's too precious to me. So no matter what, I'll dream, 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 yes I will. Tell me what more should I need to live life for such a thrill? 'Cause all I ever need's my dream, 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 yes I couldn't ask for more. Worn, but never weary, Clover climbed her stray strands of Manhattan. All that was left to do was go home and go to bed, so she could do it all again tomorrow. I never wear a phony smile, 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 even when the dark there's moonlight, moonlight. All I ever need's a smile, 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 to see me through each night. I never wear a phony smile, 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 even in the dark there's moonlight, moonlight. All I ever need's a smile, 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 to see me through each night. Always live my life guilt-free as I smile with every mile and stay as happy as I can be. Smile, smile, smile. As I got to smile, I got to hello. Halfway up the front steps of her apartment complex, Lucky turned to face an unexpected greeting. There she saw a lavender mare, about her own age, maybe a bit younger. Despite a neatly trimmed dark blue mane, the poor dear looked like she had been living on the streets for days, if not weeks. The ragged burlap cloak, a poor protection against the chill of the night air. Oh, and I'm sorry, miss, but I really don't have any bits to spare. Clover hated turning away, some pony in such obvious need. But her own means were meager at best. There's a good soup kitchen in the shelter just a few blocks away down, though. The mare looked at her head in looking confusion, then glanced to bask if she had taken over an appearance for the first time, What? No, I mean, I know what this must look like, but I'm no beggar. Well, I do sort of need help, but not the financial sort. If you just give me a moment of your time, I can explain everything and... The mare was cut off by the sound of her own trainer's stomach as it pleaded for sustenance. She gave a simper's grin. Like he knew she just would walk away, or maybe escort the starving girl to the local shelter. Instead, for reasons she couldn't quite explain, look, I don't have much to offer, but if you could come downstairs, I'll go see what I can put up together while you explain everything that you mentioned. The apartment was small, but the sparse furnishings made it spacey enough. Clover spooned out the second full from the contents of a portable stove set atop a mini fridge, before going over to a low table set opposite of her guest. Unicorn, who introduced herself as Tenbosity Sensation on the way up, stood uneasily at the bowl that had been previously placed in front of her. I've, never had chocolate-flavored ramen with barbecued apple slices before. What? I gotta try that! You know what? So does Trixie. Yeah, I guess most ponies find it a bit odd, considering why the stuff was stumbled discounted in the bargain bin. Tilting her own ball back. Lucky drowned nearly to half of the contents before setting it back down. She looked back up at her guest. The earth mare slurped down the end of a long noodle that came over her lips. Possibly, I can't get enough of this stuff. Her guest took a few hesitant sips before offering up a weak grin and an obviously false expression of appreciation. So then, Miss Sun... Actually, that's kind of a mouthful. Mind if I just call you Tenbear? There was no wait for a response. So anyway, Tenbear, you had a story or something that you wanted to tell me. Well, Miss Charms, Oh, please, no need for you to be so formal if I'm not. Just call me Lucky. All my friends do. Or at least they did back when I had any worth speaking of. It was true. Not that she was a lonely pony. She had plenty of acquaintances and associates. Just not really any ponies you could call a proper friend. Clover Mare frowned a bit at that. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Why? Clover smirked. It's not your problem. Well, it's just that I've never really had any friends at all. There just never seemed to be the time. Sounds more like I should be the one feeling sorry for you. She didn't frown, not with her mouth at least. But Lucky seemed to hold a degree of wistful sympathy in her eyes as she questioned. Really, though, I never had one. Unicorn returned a shy smile. Well, there was one, but, well, he really doesn't count. Lucky gave a snicker. Oh, you had yourself a very special somebody then. Some warm memory seemed to kindle in the back of her mare's eyes. Yeah, he was really No, wait, no! She blustered. It was nothing like that! I mean, he was my brother! That would just be... Hey, I'm not a judge. Clover said with sarcastic leer before pressing. If that's what makes your ways far be it from mutual, the mare's embarrassment only seemed to deepen, threatening to turn her whole coat from lavender to a vibrant crimson shade.
Crimson.
The earth mare let out a exasperated sigh. I'm joking. Jeez, Thames. Learn to lighten up and live a little. Clarifications hardly seemed to help. Several awkward moments passed in silence, as neither mare seemed to be able to look at each other. How about we get back to exactly what brought you to my doorstep? Unicorn's mare, mollifying humiliation, finally seemed to subside, and at least fired by her voice. Oh, right, well, you see, I've been looking for a comedian, and, well, I caught your act, and... Odd. Wait, don't tell me you're a talent scout or something. Lucky smiled broadly. Her smiles were always genuine, but she almost forgotten how much better they could be when she didn't have to coax them out with sarcastic wit. And again, it was probably too much to hope for, however. I mean, if it's true, it would be the most exciting news ever. But, Tenba, please, even if I find her in poor taste, if you're only teasing me. Sorry, I'm no talent scout. The unicorn said with a frown, then admitted herself. Well, I guess I sort of am scanning for talents, but it's nothing like you would think. Oh. Clover felt that balance and hopeful hope slowly ebb from her face as a frown slowly crept to replace it. That wouldn't do. But you actually liked my act, right? So much so that you had to follow me home just to meet me up with in person. She could feel the excitement rushing back. So, what's the gig then, Thames? Even if it's just a birthday or a wedding, there's still more than I ever been offered before, and... She trailed off as she caught herself. Now she was just starting to sound way too desperate. Yeah, you're right. Well, listen to me, Brandon. You're the one looking for a comedian after all. About that. The unicorn shifted nervously in his seat. I don't actually think you're the pony I'm looking for. I was there to catch one of the other acts. Seeing you perform was really just an accident. Well, I wouldn't exactly say I like your routine. Not like you could feel that small hurt for hope from earlier truly twist and morph into something like anger. Well then, why it doesn't sit there bothering me? She feels a dry bluster. Kurt swing back under Clover's glare. Well, curiosity, I guess? After that first night, I came back and, well, I just don't get it. You never make any pony laugh, so I just want to know why is it you keep getting up on that stage? Looking into Timber's eyes, Clover only saw genuine puzzlement. Whatever anger she'd been brewing quickly evaporated, as he smiled and explained, "Oh, that. The sort of answer is probably just a content of puzzlement, with an unfortunate emphasis on the pun. Nothing." The unicorn just held a stubborn gaze without so much as a groan. Lucky sighed. She hoped that would be enough, but her ghost's penetrating stare never wavered. "Look, first off, it's not like it should matter even if any pony is laughing or not. I get up on that stage because it makes me happy. What else should it matter other than that?" "And the second reason?" the unicorn pressed. Oh, Clover never realized the previous statement had been previous a way to invite such an additional query. She really wished that Temper had an accident in that. Was there ever even a secondly? She thought to herself. Normally she wouldn't bother, but something that looked like a bit of unbridled inquisitiveness compelled her to try at least. The Earth Mare scratched her chin, for once attempting to a serious answer to a question she hardly ever even bothered to ask herself. Well, I guess maybe it's like this. When ponies hear my jokes, they might not laugh out loud, but I can see the look in their eyes. I don't want to admit it, but it makes them happy to be reminded of how bad their lives aren't. They're really aren't laughing, sort of at least, but somewhat deep down inside their souls, in a place they don't want to even admit it exists. Her guest squinted one eye, raised her brow to the other. And you really believe that? Yeah, I guess I really do. What's the point if I didn't? I might not think about it much, but in a way, I've always known it ever since I got to my Gutemok. She paused and watched as her guest leaned sideways, to glance around the table at Lucky's flank. I used to wonder why my mark would be a symbol for good luck. She chuckled a bit. With the kind of luck I've always had, a ladder or a looking mirror, or maybe an open bar against the silhouette of a house, that would have made all the more sense. It took me a while, but I noticed how much better my misfortunes made every pony feel. She took a look of stun, not quite horror, but something almost uncomfortable across Timber's face. Clover had to admit, fancy philosophical like this really did cast her talent poorly. It sounds awful, I know, but ponies can look at me and say, "I'm glad I'm not her." It makes them smile, even if they don't know why. That's what it hits me. My luck may be rotten, but that's because I'm the lucky charm. Huh? The unicorn said in complete bewilderment. I don't get it. How's that make any kind of sense? Well, it's like this. Ponies pick clovers for good luck, right? The unicorn nodded. But think about it. What happens to the clover? It dies, that's what. She slammed a hoof on the table. Not out of anger or spite, but nearly to emphasize the point. After that, she paused to take a deep breath. But before it does, it feels to better life for joy. Lucky shook down her cast down the head, strange to chuckle. I don't know much as seems sad, but well, even in my own little way, I can leave the rest of the world a happier and better place at the end. Now then, all the little problems and the sufferings I had to endure will all be worth it. A blink, then a second, and a third. Wow, you're perfect! Clover regained a bit of normal wit. Perfectly insane, your wine. She giggled lightly before continuing. If I had a bit for every time some pony told me that, well, I actually seem to be close to broke. Most folks prefer to just take their heads and walk away, rather than speak their mind, I said. No, I'm serious, Temporary said. I didn't think I'd ever actually be asking you this, and well, it's probably going to be your turn to take on the crazy one afterwards, but, well, here goes. Is this the first time we've ever done an Irish accent on this show? You know what? I think it is! Wow. Part Scots Irish, and I've never actually had a chance to ever try to pull out a Scots Irish accent yet.